The gavel cracked like a gunshot in the stale air of the courtroom, shattering the fragile hope that had clung to Alex Rivera like a second skin. At 18, with his heart pounding wild against his ribs, he stared at Judge Harlan Graves, whose face was a mask of unyielding stone, as the words "life without parole" echoed off the oak-paneled walls. Sealing his fate for a crime he swore on his mother's grave he didn't commit. In that frozen instant, as the jury's indifferent eyes slid away and his public defender slumped in defeat, Alex felt the world tilt. The boyish dreams of college laughter and stolen kisses crumbling into the cold reality of iron bars. But Judge Graves didn't rise to leave. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the phone on his bench, dialing a number etched into his memory from decades of shadowed regrets. "Mr. Attorney General," he said, voice cracking like dry earth. "Your son. He's been sentenced. And God help me, I think I've made a grave mistake." Alex's breath caught, the room spinning as whispers rippled through the gallery like wind through dying leaves. He was Alexander Rivera Jr., son of the most powerful prosecutor in the nation, a man whose name alone could sway elections and topple empires. But in the hidden corners of their Virginia estate, Alex had been just a kid, curious, defiant, loving boys in a quiet way that made his father's jaw tighten and his mother's eyes soften with unspoken fears. Elias Rivera, the U.S. Attorney General, had built his legacy on ironclad justice, prosecuting corruption from the highest towers of Washington. But at home, he'd armored himself against the one truth that threatened to undo him. His only child was gay. The call connected in seconds, Elias's voice booming through the speaker like thunder over the Potomac. "What the hell do you mean? Sentenced? Alex? Talk to me." Harlan now, Judge Graves, a relic of the old South with silver hair and a conscience long buried under layers of precedent, leaned forward, his knuckles white. He'd known Elias since law school, back when they were firebrands dreaming of a fairer America, before life carved them into men of compromise. "Murder, Elias. They say he killed that boy in the park. Evidence. It's damning. But I see it in his eyes, same as I saw in yours all those years ago." Innocence twisted by fear. Alex's knees buckled, the bailiff's rough hands steadying him as sobs clawed up his throat. The courtroom blurred, his classmates from Fairfax High, gawking like strangers, the prosecutor, smug in his pinstripe victory, and there, in the back row, Jamie, the boy whose touch had lit Alex's world like summer fireflies, his face pale and shattered behind a veil of tears. Jamie Ellis, 19, with sun-kissed freckles and a mechanic's grease-stained overalls from his part-time gig at the local garage, had been Alex's secret since junior year. Their love was whispered in stolen moments behind the bleachers, fierce and fragile, a rebellion against the small-town whispers that had turned venomous after the discovery of Derek Harlan's body in Willow Creek Park. Derek, the golden boy of the football team, had cornered Alex one humid August night, his breath hot with beer and bigotry. "Freak," he'd snarled, shoving Alex against the oak tree, fists raining down in a blur of hatred. Alex had fought back, not with knives, never that, but with pleas and pushes, until Derek's limp form hit the ground, skull cracking on a jagged rock. Self-defense. Alex had screamed to the empty night, but the cops arriving minutes later saw only a bruised queer kid over a straight jock's corpse. and the narrative wrote itself in blood. Elias's voice cut sharper now, laced with a fury that made the line hum. I'm on my way. And Harlan, if this is what I think. Heads will roll. The judge hung up, his gaze locking onto Alex's for the first time, not as judge to convict, but as man to boy. Hang on. Son, he murmured, so low only Alex heard. Your father's storm is coming. By dusk, the federal SUVs screeched into the county courthouse lot, black as ravens under the sodium lamps. Elias Rivera burst through the doors like judgment incarnate. His suit rumpled from the helicopter dash from D.C., dark eyes blazing with a father's terror masked as wrath. Flanked by agents who parted the night like biblical seas, he stormed the holding cells, where Alex huddled on a metal bunk, wrists raw from cuffs that bit deeper than any words. Dad, Alex whispered as the door clanged open, surging forward only to freeze at the wall of silence between them. Elias, broad-shouldered and unyielding, scanned the dim space as if enemies lurked in the shadows. Tell me everything. Every damn detail. His voice was steel, but his hand, when it gripped Alex's shoulder, trembled, a crack in the fortress. Words tumbled out then, halting at first, then flooding like a breached dam. The bullying that had shadowed Alex since coming out at 16, the slurs etched into his locker, the threats that escalated to violence. Derek's attack wasn't isolated. It was the crescendo of a town's quiet war on difference. And Jamie had witnessed the tail end, too terrified to speak until now. His statement buried under layers of prosecutorial bias. Elias listened, face hardening into the mask he wore in Senate hearings. But inside, guilt gnawed like acid. He'd been absent, buried in briefs and betrayals, ignoring the boy who'd once curled against him during thunderstorms, whispering dreams of Broadway lights and boys who smiled like home. I should have seen it, Elias growled, punching the wall with a thud that echoed his regret. Push you away to protect you, from me, from this world that chews up hearts like yours. Outside, the press swarmed like locusts, cameras flashing accusations. AG's son, a killer, screamed the headlines, twisting Alex's tears into guilt. Elias shielded him as they emerged, bundling him into the SUV. But the real battle was just igniting. Back in D.C., the Attorney General's office became a war room, aides scrambling as Elias tore into the case files. Evidence? A planted knife traced to Alex's backpack. Impossible, since he'd been at Jamie's all evening. Their bodies tangled in innocent exploration. Witnesses? Coerced classmates, their stories crumbling under cross-examination threats. But power had its predators. Senator Harlan Graves, no relation to the judge, but kin in cruelty, lounged in his Capitol Hill office, cigar smoke curling like his ambitions. Derek's father, a major donor to Graves' re-election, had leaned hard, bury the fag kid, or my check stop. Graves had obliged, pulling strings to fast-track the trial, ensuring the local DA, a Graves puppet, painted Alex as predator incarnate. Now, with Elias circling, Graves smirked into his phone. Rivera thinks blood buys justice? Let him try storming the gates. Jamie waited in the shadows of that first night, slipping into the Rivera's estate under cover of moonless sky. Elias had posted guards, but love finds cracks in stone. He found Alex in a library, curled on a leather sofa amid forgotten law tomes. eyes hollow as autumn leaves. I couldn't let them take you without fighting, Jamie breathed, dropping to his knees, fingers tracing Alex's bruised jaw with the gentleness of a healer. Their kiss was desperate, salt and solace, hands clutching as if the world might rip them apart again. "You're why I breathe through it," Alex murmured against Jamie's neck, inhaling the faint scent of motor oil and mint gum. That night, Derek said things about us, about ending it. Jamie's grip tightened, his own scars, faded bruises from his stepfather's belt, mirroring Alex's unspoken wounds. At 19, Jamie had fled a home where love was a curse word, finding solace in engines that didn't judge. Their romance had bloomed in grease-smeared garages, late-night drives with radio hymns to outcasts, dreams of shared apartment in Richmond where flags flew proud. Elias found them like that, silhouetted against the firelight. And, for a heartbeat, revulsion flickered, old reflexes from a youth spent hiding his own buried affections. But he saw the light in Alex's eyes, the first since the arrest, and swallowed the bile. "Ellis," he said gruffly, stepping closer. "You saw what happened?" Jamie nodded, voice steady despite the tremor. "Self-defense, sir." Derek swung first, always did, when cornered by truth. Dawn broke with Elias's first volley, a federal injunction halting Alex's transfer to Supermax, citing prosecutorial misconduct. The media frenzy peaked, pundits dissecting the AG's nepotism, but Elias didn't flinch. He subpoenaed records, unearthed Graves' slush fund ties to the Harlan family. And in a midnight raid, agents seized the DA's laptop, brimming with doctored emails. "This isn't justice," Elias thundered in a press conference that lit up CNN, his voice raw with paternal fire. "This is prejudice in a suit. My son, and every kid like him, deserves a system that sees truth, not targets." Yet the counterstrike came swift. Graves, cornered, leaked Alex's private journals, pages of poetry to Jamie. Aching verses of forbidden love, splashed across tabloids as perverted confessions. Protests erupted outside the Rivera's home, hate groups chanting slurs, counter-demonstrators waving rainbows, the air thick with tear gas and tension. Alex, under house arrest, watched from the window, Jamie's arm around him like an anchor. "They want to break us," Alex whispered. "But they can't touch this." Their fingers intertwined, a vow etched in skin. In the eye of the storm, Elias confronted his own ghosts. Late one night, whiskey burning his throat, he pulled a faded photo from his desk drawer. Him, at 22, arms slung around a college roommate, eyes bright with unspoken promises cut short by a world that demanded closets. "I failed you by fearing myself," he confessed to Alex over the rim of his glass, the words heavy as confession. "But I'll burn it all down to give you the freedom I never chased." The trial's appeal ignited like wildfire. Elias, recused from direct involvement to dodge bias claims, orchestrated from the shadows, handpicking a special prosecutor with a spine of steel, Lena Vasquez, a Latina firebrand who'd clawed her way through ivy glass ceilings. She dismantled the case thread by thread, the knife's forensics debunked, witnesses recanting under oath, and a hidden video from a park cam showing Derek's aggression. Alex's desperate flight. Graves' empire cracked. Indictments flew for bribery, obstruction. The senator's cigar dreams ashes in his mouth. But drama peaked in the hearing's climax. Derek's mother, wild-eyed with grief, turned to rage, lunged at Alex across the bar, screaming, "Monster, you stole my boy." Bailiffs wrestled her back as chaos reigned, flashbulbs popping like gunfire. Jamie, testifying that day in his Sunday best, a crisp button-down that hid his calloused hands, leapt to shield Alex, taking a stray elbow to the ribs. "Enough," Elias bellowed from the gallery, his authority a thunderclap that silenced the room. In that hush, truth breathed, not vengeance, but healing. As verdicts loomed, romance wove deeper. Alex and Jamie stole moments in the estate's garden, under magnolias heavy with blooms, planting futures amid the thorns. When this ends, Jamie vowed, lips brushing Alex's temple, "We'll drive west. California sun. No shadows." Alex laughed, a sound like breaking dawn, pulling him close. Their love was the story's quiet pulse, a tender counterpoint to the gavel's roar, nights of whispered, "I love yous," bodies mapping each other's scars, building a world where acceptance was the air they breathed. The appeals court convened under stormy skies, Judge Harlan presiding once more, redemption etched in his furrowed brow. Lena's closing pierced like light through clouds. This case isn't about one boy's fate, it's America's soul. Do we chain the innocent for loving differently, or lift the yoke of hate? The panel deliberated hours that felt eternal. Alex clutching Jamie's hand in the antechamber, Elias pacing like a caged lion. Acquittal came at twilight, the words "not guilty" rippling like mercy's wave. Alex collapsed into Jamie's arms, sobs mingling with cheers, as Elias enveloped them both, father, son, almost brother-in-law, in a fierce hug that bridged chasms. Graves slunk away in cuffs, his donors scattering like rats. But the real victory hummed quieter, headlines shifting to justice for the marginalized, protests blooming into pride marches. In the afterglow, Elias stood on the Capitol steps, Alex and Jamie at his side, addressing a nation hungry for hope. "Love," he declared, voice thick with unshed tears, "is not a crime. It's the force that redeems us all." Alex, free and fierce, squeezed Jamie's hand, their rings glinting, simple bands exchanged in a backyard vow under starlight. The boy who'd faced chains now walked tall, his heart a beacon. Months blurred into healing. Alex enrolled at Georgetown, majoring in criminal justice, vowing to wield words as weapons for the voiceless. Jamie joined him, tools traded for textbooks in auto engineering. Their tiny apartment a haven of laughter and late-night talks. Elias visited often, the distance between them mended with shared meals and stories, his own youth finally voiced, a bridge to understanding. One crisp fall evening, as leaves danced like confetti over the National Mall, Alex turned to his father amid the monuments. "You saved me," he said softly. Elias shook his head, eyes misty. "No, son. You saved us, showed me courage wears many faces." Jamie smiled, linking arms with them both, the trio silhouetted against the Lincoln Memorial's gaze. In a world still scarred by shadows, their love endured, a testament that justice, once bent, could straighten that hearts, though tested, beat on. And in quiet moments, Alex would trace the faded bruise on Jamie's side, whispering thanks to the stars for the storm that forged their unbreakable bond.